All right. So here we are,
Oh,
hanging on glass tables.
yes. Feels like the end of a journey.
It is the end of a journey for sure, I think. It's been a good journey thus far. But we're going to wrap up the season today. And we get to not do it by ourselves because that's a boring way to close something out.
Right.
But we get to have a guest. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sonia Murphy. Excited to be part of today's adventure.
Yes. Well, I think it will be an adventure.
We're going to drink our way through something. So Sonia is not only a friend, but a bourbon aficionado. She is in the Institute of Whiskey?
The Whiskey University student and instructor and part of Bourbon Women and got my art business, Art Aged and Neat. So big fan of the bourbon world and learning as much as I can and drinking and tasting and
I'm pretty sure you're at a different distillery every weekend that I see you on Facebook. I'm like, okay, all right, good for you.
you have to travel and
Yeah.
see what's out there, especially here in Western Kentucky when we've got so many where it's an easy drive to
That's true.
check out a different distillery here or there. So
Well, good. Well, we're gonna pick your brain.
okay.
We've been teasing to these people out here for quite a while all the things about bourbon. We've done a lot of bourbon cocktails, and we'll glossed over specific words and things like that and terminology, and really we just figured we'd end the season strong with bourbon. And I guess the idea is that when you're going to a liquor store and you want to know what bourbon that you should be buying, we want to give you just enough knowledge to be dangerous and educated. So I've got a list of terms right here off camera that I'll glance down at, and so we'll talk about different kinds of bourbons and whiskeys and things like that. Different terminology, things like bottled and bond or finished or straight run or whatever. And we'll kind of go through those things, talk about it, drink about it as we usually do. So there's not a whole lot of tech on this one. We've had some episodes that have been really tech heavy.
Yep.
This one is just gonna be drinking, and the more we drink, usually the more fun we have, and the less you need tech anyway. So remember, here's your tech topic for the day. If it's not working, reset it.
There we go. Yeah.
Sometimes an etch a sketch shake makes everything better.
That's right. So
I'm just not sitting there thinking about a laptop. It won't work.
yeah, it shakes like a mariachi's maracas. You shook it too hard. Okay, let's get into it then. I guess the big thing about bourbon, and I kind of have the answers here, but what I want to do is just kind of round table
Should
it.
have been a pre-reader. So
Yeah, there probably should have been. It's called life. We're pulling on your Whiskey University knowledge. So I'm just gonna throw some terms out there, see what you guys think they are, see how close you get, and then I'm not gonna say I'm smarter than you because I have answers. So
score.
yeah, we're gonna score. Ding ding
Ding ding. Yep.
Yeah, you might get some graphic to put on
Oh boy,
the screen. No pressure.
this editing just got a lot worse.
So here's the first one. What is bourbon? What defines bourbon?
Well, for me,
Tasty, yummy.
well, there's the yumminess, but then
It's a chocolate chip cookie.
well, it's the easy remember your ABC, right? So, just made in America for your A. B is your barrel. It has to be in a new charred oak barrel that can't have been somewhere else. It's got to be brand spanking new.
What kind of oak?
Is it American?
American white oak.
All right, there. Haven't been to a Cooperage yet. That's next on our list.
By the way, we're drinking just regular Bullet
Bullet.
Orange Label. You can find it everywhere. It's one of my favorites because you can drink it neat. You can make a great cocktail with it, and it's readily available everywhere for a really good price. So
yeah. And your C it's corn. It's 51% corn. If it hits those three, it's a bourbon.
Yeah.
And then there's the D and E enough. They're not as important as the ABCs.
it's true. What else you got?
Well, I mean that covers it. I'd say, you know, bourbon is an experience, and I think we've learned a lot about that in the last couple of days. I mean, obviously you have, you know, what makes a bourbon is the ABCs that you just talked about, but bourbon in and of itself is an experience. A lot of we had a guy yesterday, or well, for last week's episode, who was talking about so he can tell if someone's a whiskey drinker or a bourbon drinker by how fast they drink it. They get a shot, they shoot it, they're a whiskey drinker.
Yeah.
If they slow down and they enjoy it, they're a bourbon drinker. Typically, you know, everybody has an exception to the rule, but
Or they have an appreciation for it.
yeah,
I think anybody who's shooting anything has a different mindset.
yeah,
Like,
You
you're
know,
not tasting it.
no,
You're just
you're
drinking
not.
it to drink it.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I hate, even, and not to hijack where you're going, but just when I pour somebody, I'll bring out a special bottle of something from my private collection, like on a slow bar night. I'm like, here, try this. And you can tell there's guys that'll sniff, they'll swivel, they'll do other things, they'll put it in their mouth, not all of it, just a little bit,
yeah.
and taste it and savor it. And then you get especially younger people. I'm not gonna name names, but one of them's on our staff. And he will grab it and he tossed it back and he's like, that was smooth. And I'm like, smooth what? Oh, what was smooth about it? All you
wasn't
got
the
was an
point.
alcohol burn.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. There's no smooth anything. That's the literal, or well, it's not literal. It's the equivalent of like tire tracks burned into the pavement as you're taking off.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's nothing.
You don't
smooth about
appreciate
it.
the hug, the
Mhm.
mouthfeel. You
Yeah.
don't get that when you're just drinking.
Yeah.
This isn't cough syrup.
Yes, but yes, appreciating it and being a bourbon drinker and savoring it is what you were saying.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, well, to add to your, I'll finish your ABCs. So obviously, like she said, and you could title this episode ABCs of whiskey if you want, or ABCs of bourbon. But yeah, A is America, B is, and it's not Kentucky. That is a good qualification to, to a good distinction to make. The first time I found bourbon, and I wasn't in Kentucky, we were in a distillery in Maine. And it's called Wiggly Bridge in the middle of nowhere, like super southeastern Maine. And it was so good. And to this day, that is probably the old fashioned recipe that has influenced me the most in the old fashioned that I make.
Yeah.
And we got a black walnut, like a fig, what's it called? Fig Manhattan with black walnut bitters that we made. Oh,
Interesting.
it's so good. My wife loves that one. But yeah, I mean, and that really threw me. I'm like, I thought it had to be made in Kentucky. And they're like, no, that's, I mean, it used to be. Bourbon County is where the name bourbon comes from, which is a county in Kentucky. But yeah, so A is America, B is the barrel, white, American, charred, unused oak barrel. C is corn, as she said, 51%. D is distilled. It has to be distilled no higher than 160 proof. Anything beyond that is just madness. E is enter. You have to enter the barrel at
125.
125.
Yep.
Gold star, then
There you
Fudor. So yeah, you go into the barrel, 125 proof, and then F is I don't know if you want to call it fillers or flavors, but you're not allowed to add anything to the flavor or the color or anything like that. There was a big thing, and we could talk about it a little bit more when we get into a later term where people would put, tobacco spit or whatever into it, iodine,
Mhm.
into it to make it look a certain way, make it taste a certain way, just so they could sell it. And this was way back in the 1800s, whatever. And snake oil salesmen peddling bourbon. And so yeah, they're thankfully we have now legal laws and things like that prevent people from doing that. But yeah, no additives at all. Bourbon goes into a barrel clear. It sits in that barrel for 2 to 4 years, or up to, I mean, you get into some of the scotches, you're talking 30, 40 years, right?
I think the minimum
So-
is 2 years, right?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is a term for that when we will get to a little bit later. But yeah, it's going to pull all the color and most of the flavors from the white American oak.
Mhm.
And so that's where it comes from. Anything else, technically qualifies it as not a bourbon.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so bourbon. So I guess bourbon versus whiskey then. What is the difference between?
Well,
I knew we should have started with whiskey. Tank on the bourbon.
very similar because it's got to have the corn, it's got to have the barrel. Doesn't necessarily need to be made in America. You've got some great Japanese whiskeys, Canadian whiskeys, so there isn't that. But it's their what is it, the charcoal filter process. My brain just stopped working.
That's
Oh no,
Tennessee
that is
whiskey.
Tennessee. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that's Lynchburg Bigman.
Maybe we'll get there. Yep. The Lincoln County process.
Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, for whiskey in general, it doesn't have to be corn.
Right.
It just has to be grains. And we've got a distillery right across the street. They do mostly moonshine. Their stuff says grain and cane distilled spirits, which means it's not technically whiskey because he's using sugarcane and stuff like that. He's making moonshine, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, different grains, and some of the grains, I mean, you got rye, you got barley, you got corn, obviously, wheat.
So your wheat.
And different types of wheats and different types of barleys and things like that. So malted barley, all that stuff. So yeah, so anything, there's a lot of different things that can be whiskey, but bourbon is a whiskey that is made a specific way using those ABCs. All right, rye whiskey. What makes a rye whiskey?
Delicious.
And I'd say just anything that has more of the rye content, right? The rye grain.
For sure. How much?
Over 51%.
Over 51%. That's it. So because it's over 51% rye, obviously can't be over 51% corn because you only have 100%. So rye whiskey is technically not a bourbon. So I'm gonna grab this guy from our friends at Green River. So this is their rye whiskey, which we can do just off a little bit if you want to taste this. Just a smidge. We got a lot of different ones that we can potentially taste today, so we're not going crazy on these, but yeah, their rye. Rye's usually for marketing purposes use a green label.
Yeah.
Weeded tends to use a red label. Just tends to be the way they do it, but not exclusively. The Wilderness Trail one I have over there is a yellow label for their wheat. But yeah. So the rye you're gonna find, like, what do you get on the notes on that when you drink that, as opposed to the bullet that we had previously?
Yummy is right.
I feel like I get a lot of the spice. So I'm getting my nutmeg, some of my baking spices, and that Kentucky hug.
Yeah. Rye tends to, I mean, it's a hardier grain, usually grown. A lot of them get it from Canada. And Brad, who we talked to last week, I heard him at the bar when he was talking to one of the bartenders. He kind of mentioned that conversation he had with her, but he was telling her about kind of schooling her on Manhattans and old fashions and the origins of those drinks. And very cool because, he said a lot of those originally started with ryes.
Yeah.
Because the ryes were, like, you weren't growing during Prohibition. The U.S. government was outlawing or really controlling the production of corn. Because if you can control the production of corn, you can control who's making what with it. So you're not making bourbon during Prohibition because you can't get corn, but you're getting ryes coming in from Canada. And ryes, I don't know exclusively. I'm not going to make a banner statement, but as far as my friends who grew up in the northern areas and the colder climates, they tend to favor ryes, I think, on their palate. But I think a lot of rye is grown up north where it's a little colder, a little hardier. So yeah, they were importing it from Canada, making rye whiskeys with it. And so Manhattans, old fashions, a lot of the bourbon or the whiskey cocktails back in Prohibition were rye based. Yeah, I mean, and it's great. It's a little pepperier.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit more of a burn It's a little harsher if it's done wrong. I've had a lot of bad ryes.
Mm-hmm.
But I love Green River because I've not had a bad thing from them, but it also makes a really good rye. And there's a lot of really good ryes out there, but there's a lot of bad ones too. So be wary. Not all ryes are created equal. If you've had a rye and you don't like it,
Try another one.
try another one. And if you still don't like it, add a drop or two of water to it.
So yeah, just that water, sometimes just that drop just opens it a little. It helps kind of bridge some of that that you feel when you exhale, and it just makes it.
Yeah, I do like what the guy from Abstraction said a couple weeks ago. He said, if you don't try it 3 times, you haven't really tried it.
Yep.
Because the first time you're going to get the burn, second time you're starting to open up, and the third time you're actually getting the flavor.
Yeah.
So I do like what he said there.
Yeah. And there is, and maybe we can let you school people on how to taste bourbon.
Oh, I'm not good at that.
You're not gonna say it. I've been to so many distilleries and they explain it differently at every single place, and it's very interesting. But
It's almost for me, it's hard. Like I like some of the distillers that have the wheel because then you can kind of look. But then there's also the power of suggestion, right? It's like, oh, well, this tastes like the banana bread I had in 4th grade that Aunt Sue made, kind of thing. And like, oh, well, yeah, I guess I do get some bananas.
I've never had your Aunt Sue's. Man, she must have been a lush.
Well, we did yesterday. Gosh, in last week's episode, when we visited with MB Roland,
We filmed it yesterday.
yeah, we talked to MB Roland, and they did suggest there is a certain way of tasting. So maybe I'll remember what the time frame was on that when I edit that video and put it down in the show notes or something. But
There you go.
she did say, like, the reason she got started with MB Roland was because she went to well, I don't know if it was MB at the time or if she went somewhere else, but someone from MB taught her how to taste. And they knew each other for a while from that, and then she decided to join and assist and be on the crew. But it started with learning how to taste.
Well, let's try and taste with our next bottle and our next topic, which is Tennessee whiskey. You kind of hinted at it with the Lincoln County process, and I didn't really get the notes specifically, but I mean, it's very similar to bourbon. It does have to be an unused American white charcoal barrel. Doesn't necessarily, I don't think, have to be 51% corn. But it does have to be charcoal filtered in what they call the Lincoln County process, which is the county that Lynchburg, Tennessee is in, that Jack Daniel's distillery is in down in Tennessee. So obviously Jack Daniel's is the #1 Tennessee whiskey in the world. Thank you, Frank Sinatra. If it weren't for him, it would not be so. And they thanked him by giving a Frank Sinatra bottle of Jack Daniel's, which is, I hear, very good and very expensive. Well, not everybody's gonna like everything. So I know I did find out from one of my distributors. I was like, "Do you have that?" She's like, "Yeah." I was like, "How much is it?" She told me, and I was like, "Maybe later." Maybe later. That's a lot for a bottle of Jack Daniel's.
I don't think I've had Uncle Nearest yet, so I'm excited.
Oh, Uncle Nearest. Ooh, let me tell this story real quick. Before we taste. So Uncle Nearest, I love Uncle Nearest. Not only is it my favorite tasting Tennessee whiskey, but the story is super cool because back in the day, we're talking pre-Civil War, Jack Daniel was a young man, and there was a Baptist minister that he knew, and he went to him, and who he had to still, this minister had to still on his farm. And he's like, I want to learn to make whiskey. And so he's like, all right, I got a guy here, man named Nearest Green. Nearest Green was a black enslaved man that worked for this minister. Not slaves and certain, the way you think, like the color purple. Like, I'm pretty sure he was treated well, but he was still an enslaved man. But he taught Jack everything he knew about making whiskey. He taught him how to run the still, how to, find the heads, the hearts, all that stuff, which our terms are not on my list, by the way. Heads and hearts of the still. But yeah. And so a couple years later, after not Prohibition, but after the Civil War, Nearest Green had, he was given his freedom. So he was a free man. And Jack came back to the ministry. He's like, I would like to buy your still. And he said, okay, I'll sell it to you. And Jack hired Nearest to be his first master distiller. And so it's a really cool story because you're talking about a time when, racial tensions were super high, and you don't hear a lot, there's a lot of tolerance maybe for people of a different color, but these men had a genuine friendship and a mutual respect, and that's super cool. And I think that goes to show, maybe I'm reaching, but it goes to show the uniting power of bourbon and whiskey, and it brings people together of all walks and all races and all creeds and all that. So, all right, we've got a little Tennessee whiskey here from Uncle Nearest.
It's a lovely color.
That's beautiful. So, I mean, you can hold it up. These are tiny Glencairn glasses. Glencairns are, I don't have the history on Glencairns. They sound Scottish, so we're going to say they're Scottish. But they're designed in such a way to kind of filter the flavor, the aroma, the scent up into your nose and kind of concentrate that. You don't really want to smell it directly. Don't stick your nose right in it because you're just going to get the alcohol vapors. But, kind of when they do it a little bit differently in rum, but I really remember being at the Bacardi distillery and like, smell it here and smell it here and smell it above and smell it below. And, you get a different smell every time, but you just kind of, waft it back and forth, get a nice scent on it. You can kind of wiggle it around. You can't do it with the minis as well as you can with the bigs because there's more room in those. But, kind of look at the legs on the glass.
I would say the legs are nice. And I bet one distiller we went to, they really like before you do the swirl with your hand over it.
Okay.
So that when you go to sniff it, it's not just all that alcohol burn. It kind of.
Hang on. And you're not splashing all over your clothes.
Well, there's that too.
So that's good. But yeah, and the legs are just the fancy industry term for, the kind of that clear, viscous cling to the glass. You'll see it as you swirl it, and then it starts to run down. And the legs are how long it takes really to start running. But you can see the drops in there. And so you want to do it, you hinted the way that Brad said with, 3 times. Really, the first one, you just take a little bit of sip, slosh it around your mouth. They say, kind of chew it, and get your taste buds acclimated to bourbon. Especially if you're waking up in the morning. It's pretty early here. It's like 11 o'clock. So actually it's 12. So take a little bit, slush around your mouth, and just let your taste buds know, hey, we're about to do something you're not used to. It's going to burn a little bit, and you're not going to get a lot of flavor off that first one. So really just coating your taste buds. The next sip you do, you're going to get a little bit more flavor out of it. And that third, you're really going to get a lot more flavor out of it. And now someone also told me, as you swallow, breathe out, because that's going to get rid of a lot of that burn and that alcohol vapor as well. So I think that's a Scottish trick, based on who told me that.
It's very smooth.
It's very nice. Very, I don't know, what do you taste on this? What kind of notes do you get? I don't want to influence your answers.
Have that stone fruit, but your plum, a little bit of just kind of that goodness.
Stone fruit.
Yeah, and fruits with the big seeds.
Like a big
They call stone fruits.
Yeah,
Area?
that's the
Am
thing.
I just making that up?
No,
You're
Okay.
right. I'm just being educated on more than bourbon right now. That's cool.
What do you get?
I don't know that I can pick anything out.
Uh,
I'm gonna need to drink more water. Is what I'm gonna need to do.
Yeah. I taste a lot of white oak American wood. No. That last sip I had, I did get a little fruit. And I think that's because you influenced me. And it's funny the way that works. My first sip before, when I was about to say before I stopped myself and was like, no, you tell me. I had a lot of caramel. It was had a nice sweetness to it. It was very kind of mellow and It's very delicious.
Kind of that brown sugar, just a little bit of sweet,
Yeah.
but that isn't so much where you're like, what's happening here?
Hmm.
Mhm.
I do have water. And then the Kentucky Hug you mentioned.
Mhm.
Go ahead and describe.
Oh, and I know that I've heard it, and I think so. I don't know if the way I just always interpret it is just that slight burn that starts to go down as you're drinking, and just kind of that a pleasant warmth, like a nice hug from a friend,
That's
where it's
right.
just like,
Yeah.
yay,
Yeah, that warmth
Ah.
on your soul that you
right.
get from drinking
But is
bourbon
it kind of that? And now I'm on fire, and I should probably
breathe
talk
out
to
when I
a
swallow.
gastroenterologist. No, this is the good hug.
Yeah. But it goes back to what we mentioned earlier. I mean, if you shoot it, it's going to burn, and that's it.
Mhm.
If you enjoy it and appreciate it, it'll go slower, and it's more of a hug than
Yes.
a burn.
That's true. That's more like an ass smack when you just take a shot. Oh, a little less friendly, a little more invasive. Draw that metaphor to a conclusion. All right. I don't actually have any of this with me. It's across the room, but I don't need to taste it. So the next few we've got here, just show my notes. Scotch, Irish whiskey, Japanese whiskey. We can talk about all those in one go. We don't have to spend much time on them, but what are we thinking of? Scotches, Irish whiskeys, Japanese whiskeys.
I think, at least for the scotches, I don't know if they need to be specific to the 4 or 5 regions in Scotland that are primarily known for that. And I don't know if that's a geographical thing.
Yeah.
I think Irish whiskeys definitely need to be distilled and bottled in Ireland. And I would think Japanese whiskey is probably where they're bottled, right? So, if it's bottled, if it's distilled here and then shipped there to bottle, does it still count as a Japanese whiskey, or does it have to be? I don't know. I've only had 1 or 2 really good Japanese whiskeys. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of Japanese, like the Japanese, import a lot of whiskey and bourbon, and it's can be very frustrating because a lot of the stuff that we find allocated here, whether your Wellers, your Blantons, your Pappies, all that stuff that American whiskey aficionados chase after, they're found a little bit more easily in Japan because they have such a demand for it that they import so much of it, and it doesn't get into the American market as well. There's also fewer people in Japan, so to buy it all up, whereas in America, there's we're just ravaging it for the shelves. Yeah, Scotch has to be in Scotland. Has to be. That's where the name of it comes from. So like bourbon is American, Scotch is in Scotland. But there's Highland, there's Lowland, and there's it's more nuanced than that. This isn't really a Scotch episode, so we're not going to spend much time on it. But there's definitely peat.
I would say it's the peat, that dirt.
Yeah, it
flavor.
tastes like. And the really strong, not all scotches are the same. So, I'm not making a generalized statement, but a lot of the scotches I've had are very like licking a Band-Aid and sniffing a campfire. They're very smoky. They're very, I don't know. It's an acquired taste for sure. And they do pride themselves on aging for a really long time. And of course, another term that we can probably mention right now is the angel share.
Yes.
Right. Which is, the evaporation inside the barrel that happens. So the longer it sits in the barrel, the more of it evaporates out. And so over time, you have less. You fill the barrel up when you are barreling it, but over 10, 20, 30 years, you may have half to even less than half left in the barrel. So you have less bottles you can produce from it over time. Not only does it take all that time to do it, but you have less of it. So they're charging stupid amounts, like a bottle of Macallan 30 or 40 years can go for like $4 to $5 grand a bottle.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And I think I don't have the palate or the appreciation for something like that, but in my estimation, there's a kind of a diminishing return on it, where it's like you can only get so much character out of wood
Yeah.
Yes.
that you're not going to get. I mean, it's going to get smoother and all this stuff, but eventually it's going to just be like, okay.
Right.
I mean, it's fine. Is it, $3,000 better than the bottle 10 years younger than it?
Right.
I don't think it's worth the money. But, if you have a billionaire, eccentric billionaire friend who has a bottle on a shelf and wants to share it with you, try it.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, and then let us know in the comments what you think.
Right.
When Bruce Wayne offers you some scotch.
And
So-
and if you're a billionaire, send us some.
Right.
Yeah,
If you would like us to taste, we will taste it.
We'll do it live here, and send us 2 bottles.
That one as well.
That's right.
Well, we'll bring you back. That's
Yeah.
fine.
We'll do a scotch episode. It'll be great. So
Well, because you mentioned Angel Share, we have to talk about the Devil's Cut. So, Jack Daniels, I think it is.
Jim Beam.
Jim Beam, who did the Devil's Cut. I just remember the Mila Kunis commercials for, they had decided, well, instead of what's going up to the heavens in evaporation, the wood is absorbing it. So let's create a process to, once the barrels are empty, smoosh down these barrels and suck out
Any liquid that's
any
Yeah.
liquid that's inside of it. And
Yeah.
that becomes the Devil's Cut. So if you
interesting.
see that on the
Yeah.
shelves,
Yeah.
that's what that is.
At some
Okay.
point, it becomes a gimmick.
Yeah.
So
Your commercials were a little
yeah.
Cool.
I mean, you've got like Jefferson's Ocean, right? And that's the thing. I mean, you want another term we can mention is rick house. Rick house is just the buildings that they house the barrels in,
Mhm.
right? And they are not temperature controlled. They are, really just kind of a lot of them thin metal walls,
Right.
that kind of stuff. These huge giant warehouses.
well, and at least now all the new ones, I think like there's a cap on floors. Like you can't be higher, I think, than like 7 stories
Okay.
because that's the limit to your fire truck ladder. So
Mm.
now they're like,
That makes sense.
you can't. I think there are some of the older rick houses where they might be at the 9 stories, but I think other than that, they're like, nope. If you're coming in new, we've got to be able to contain this.
Yeah,
if we
for
have
sure.
to, because
Safety
there have been
regulations and-
right, like the Heaven Hill fire and all of that.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
like, nope.
That's true.
Nope.
So, but yeah, I mean the idea behind aging it, right? It does get its flavor and color from the wood. So the idea of, I mean it's physics. It's just the heat expands, cold contracts. So the temperature fluctuations are what you want. It pushes the juice into the wood, it pulls it back out again, and the more you can do it, the more flavor you're gonna get.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so you get people like Jefferson's Distillery, and they have the Oceans brand. They put their barrels on big freighters, and they take them back and forth across the sea, and so they're just being tossed around in the ocean. And in theory, the goes in and out and out, and people that love it swear by it,
Mhm.
right? And then I had one of my distributors bring me a bottle that like, oh, it's aged in coal mines, and I'm like, there's no temperature fluctuation in a coal mine. This is pure gimmick, in my
Right.
opinion.
Yeah.
And if you work at a distillery and you age your stuff in a coal mine, prove us wrong. But it's really like it didn't do much for me because I'm like,
Well, I
don't
think that's
get
why
it.
I like Kentucky so much and what comes out of our Kentucky workhouses, because there is so much fluctuation. Oh,
Mm.
and this week, I'm sure some of us turned our heat on, and yesterday it was 80 something degrees out.
Yeah.
So we definitely get that
Absolutely.
fluctuation.
Yeah, we definitely get seasons here. And so the seasons, I think, are what helps it. And that's probably why, I mean, we're kind of right there in the center of the country, right? Anything too north is going to be very cold most of the year, and anything below us is going to be too warm most of the year. So we're kind of right there in that sweet spot, which is probably why bourbon was birthed here.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we're just, Devil's Cut, gimmick. Jefferson's Ocean, gimmick. Coal mine, definitely a gimmick. So, but it's all just trying new things, and certain people like Maker's Mark and different other distilleries, they'll take like pieces of a barrel and they'll toast it, and then they'll add it into a barrel after it's been aged for X amount of time. They'll add these extra chars, and sometimes they'll put it in a bottle.
Yeah.
You
Staves
know,
and
and
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so they'll pull extra flavor from that, and it can be a gimmick, but I mean, people are just trying to find that X factor for what separates there's so much whiskey out there.
Mhm.
that, I mean, you walk into a liquor store and you're like, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the pretty label.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like, I like this one. Or, and people, I've said it before, people are emotional drinkers. For the most part, you're going to drink what you know,
Mhm.
especially because taking the time to explore anything else is really expensive and kind of waste your time.
Right.
If you find something that you love, stick with it. But if you want to explore, I mean, really a distillery visit is kind of the way to go because you can taste multiple things and,
Absolutely.
you get that experience as well. So,
Yeah. And I was thinking about when you were mentioning the rick houses, what I just learned last week were folks for the Four Roses with their 10 different recipes on their labels, they will put like L4 or whatever. And that corresponds to the rick house. And if it's
Mhm.
east or west or the yada yadas. And there are folks who, what I learned was that there are folks who are like, oh, I will only ever drink this recipe
Yeah.
from rick house east, fourth, floors
Mhm.
2 to 6, because that's the best ever. Okay.
Okay.
You.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I don't know. We had something from the 5th floor and it was fantastic.
Well, and this would probably be a good segue into, we've got like single barrel versus small batch versus, single barrel versus small batch. You get the big names, your Jack Daniels, your Jim Beams, your Bullets, what they're doing because it matters, right? Where in the rick house, as you're talking about. You get higher up in the rick house, you get more temperature fluctuations. If you're east or west in the rick house, depending on where the sun hits it, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everything is going to depend on where you are within the rick house. The mash bill is the official word of the recipe, right? That's what they call it. And so the mash bill is 51% corn on bourbon at least, or 51% rye at least. And then it goes up from there. So I mean, you go to a big place like Buffalo Trace, they only have like 4 mash bills. But they're responsible for not just Buffalo Trace bourbon or benchmark bourbon, or but they have what, E.H. Taylor, Weller, Blanton's, Pappy. They have so many that people want all the time. They got the Sazerac, they got Eagle Rare. And most of that stuff is based on where it is in which rick house.
Mhm.
And they know that those ones specifically are going to produce that same kind of flavor profile. But when you get into the bigger ones, you want, it's kind of like the Budweiser or bourbon, right? You want to pick up a bottle of Jack Daniels and go, this tastes like Jack Daniels.
Mhm.
And you can't do that when every single barrel is going to taste a little bit different.
Yeah.
So what those people do is they take dozens of barrels, hundreds of barrels sometimes, and they throw them all into this giant vat and they mix it all up and then they bottle it from there.
Mhm.
Because the consistency comes from, the blends of everything together. Small batch is going to be what you're going to find in a lot of smaller distilleries because they're not doing as many barrels. So they may take 2 to 3 barrels and they're going to throw those in together. And so your small batches will be slightly different
Mhm.
depending on the bottle. See a lot of bottles that will have, they will have exactly what you're talking about. I mean, here's Blanton's, right? And this one says it was dumped on 7/26/25 from barrel number 98 in warehouse H on Rick 60, bottled at 93 proof. So there you go. Blanton's is the original single barrel
Mhm.
whiskey. And a single barrel just means that they didn't blend anything together. They took one barrel, they opened it up, they tasted it, they found it exceptional, and they said, we're just going to bottle this.
Yeah.
And so, you get how many bottles out of a barrel? 150-ish,
think so.
somewhere in that range. Depending on how long it sat there and how much the angels took away from you. But yeah, I mean, so once that is gone from, barrel number 98, like every bottle that says bottle number 98 in, Rick number 60 should taste exactly the same.
Right.
Yeah.
But Blanton's is always going to be slightly different. So this is one barrel bottled at one time. And the thing with Blanton's too, Blanton's is a bourbon, but Blanton's is a high rye bourbon. So their mash bill, it's at least 51% corn, but that other 49% can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
This one's going to be, I don't know, I don't have the numbers exactly in front of me. It's probably like 30% rye, somewhere in there. And then they're going to maybe put a little bit of like barley in there, whereas I don't know. I don't really have any right in hand, but like a wheated bourbon is going to be 51% corn and then maybe like 30% rye or wheat. The rye is going to be a spicier character. The wheat is going to be a sweeter character. So it's going to depend, on what you like in similar mash bills.
Do you collect your horses?
I have the whole set up there.
I don't think I ever noticed.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got the whole set up there on a barrel stave. So I don't know. Blanton's, everybody seeks out Blanton's. It's kind of, some people swear by it, and we sell quite a bit of it to the people that come in here and they don't shoot bourbon. They appreciate it. It's not cheap. It's probably a $60-$70 bottle. If you find it in the wild, you're probably gonna pay $150 to $200, at least. Just because of resale and that. I don't particularly care for it. My palate leans wheater than ryer. So I'm
Sweeter
not,
than ryer.
yeah. So I'm not
It's
really
very
gonna,
butterscotch
yeah.
and tasting.
That corn and that rye combined.
Yeah. Kind of that, I don't know, thinking of like that caramel butterscotch candy and the yellow wrapper that was in your grandma's purse at church.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do. Didn't care for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I would put this quite on the same level as that, because I do like this. It's not my favorite. I do like it. And those butterscotch things, I would never fail.
Yeah. So that's Blanton's. Let's see. What else do we? And let me say words. What else do we need to talk about? Let's talk about proofs. Okay, a proof is what is the definition of a proof? Every bottle says it's 100 proof, 80 proof, 90 proof, 150 proof. What does that mean?
Your alcohol blend per volume, isn't that, so like we had mentioned with the ABCs, the EF, like it has to go in at least 125, and as time changes and barrel sits, and or if the distillers add water to something to bring it down, if it's too high but there's got so much burn, it kind of brings it to what it is. If it's 100, is it 100, it's at its like it's at, I don't know, my brain has just stopped working right in the middle of the words.
That's what happens when it happens to us all the time.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Should have studied for this.
What is the proof? What does that mean? If it's 100 proof, what does that mean on a bottle?
Well, so you can have like 100% alcohol would be just alcohol. That'd be 200 proof.
Right.
So it's I guess not the percentage, but the ratio for the percentage on how much actual alcohol content there is inside of it.
Yeah. So the proof is double the percentage of alcohol in the bottle.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100 proof bottle is going to be 50% alcohol. And to raise and lower that, like she said, they add water. So, which is why we mentioned earlier, if something's too strong for you, if you don't like the flavor, add water to it. Put ice in it. As the ice melts, it's going to add water to it. It's going to lower the proof. It's going to make it softer on your palate. It's going to make it easier for you to drink. I joke with my wife all the time. Even yesterday, she's going around tasting all the different things, and she's like, I really like their highest proof, and I like their highest proof, and I like their highest proof. And I'm like, you always like the highest proof stuff, but she likes it with ice.
Yeah.
So she likes the high stuff, and then she likes to proof it down with ice because she gets a little bit more flavor that way. If you start with something like 80 proof and then you add ice, you're proofing it down to like 60, 70, and
Yeah.
it's not as strong anymore. You lose a lot of that flavor. So yeah, water is the way to downproof something.
Is it 80 that like under 80 is more like your liqueur, right? In theory, sometimes.
Yeah, your liqueurs can be, or even moonshines. I mean, across the street, his moonshines are like 40 proof. You know, the flavored stuff. Yeah, so your liqueurs are gonna probably be 40 proof, 50 proof, you know, something like that. And those are more just fillers in the drinks to flavor things. Barrel strength. If you see a bottle that says barrel strength, that is going to mean what? Barrel strength.
Like that's like your 100%.
Well, it goes into a bottle at what proof?
100%.
150.
50.
125.
Oh yeah. See, I wasn't prepared
For bourbon. Bourbons.
I
So
feel like I should have studied.
I mean, and it could lose a little bit as it ages, but a barrel strength bottle is going to be bottled straight from the barrel with little to no dilution. It's going to be super high proof. Think your HK Youngs. I have HK Young here. It says barrel strength. This one is 114 proof. So we did an episode with HK Young. Fantastic bourbon, really strong. So if you're looking for higher proof, good. Full proof is going to be bottled at the same proof that it entered the barrel. So I'm not sure necessarily that it's much different than barrel strength. But I guess if you had something that, I don't know, I'd have to do a little bit more research on what makes that. It made sense before I started drinking. Yeah, so barrel strength is straight out of the barrel. Full proof is, in theory, bottled the same proof it entered the barrel. So they don't always have to go in at 125. That's going to be based on the distiller, but it can't go in higher than 125 to be bourbon. And then your proof, of course, we talked about is twice the alcohol percentage. All right. Do we need to pause and take a break? Or do we just keep rolling?
Okay. I can get another water.
Okay. Let's take a quick break and hydrate a little bit, and we'll return after a message from our sponsors.
Hi, Joseph.
Hey.
Thank you for attending the Art Aged and Neat Dome. She needs a name, so feel free to put in the comments what its name should be. She needs a name. So welcome to our dome. It's a mobile art lounge for you to come on in when you're at the distillery. You've got some bourbon that's aged, neat, or fantastic, and sit and paint a spell. So since we're at the Red Brick Inn, we've got a couple of canvases for folks to just sit, use your acrylic marker, paint in the logo. We've got Lake Barkley, or, you know, if you want to freestyle it, feel free to freestyle it.
Okay.
You can't upgrade if you're like, no, I'm painting, I want paint. We do have paint. We've got some options for folks that want to paint. But yeah, we're excited to be here at the Red Brick Inn for some sit, paint, enjoy.
Okay. Let's do some painting.
All right.
All right. Thank you to the sponsors. We are returning now with some of that legal talk we talked about earlier. This is Wilderness Trails bottled in bond bottle, and I do love Wilderness Trail. They're pretty fantastic. I'm just gonna do a little bit of this guy, and let's talk about what bottled in bond means. You're gonna see that a lot in liquor stores. I do know that it's always going to be 100 proof.
Yep.
But what else can you tell me about bottled in bond?
Well, so the Bottled and Bond Act in 1897 pioneered Colonel E.H. Taylor, because now we've got these really pretty bottles, right? But that isn't how whiskey and bourbon made its way. Like, you had someone schlepping their barrels here and there, and like we had said earlier, like they could put in, you know, random creepiness to it and sell it as they schlep their barrel around. So H. Taylor and some other folks were like, we produce a quality product.
Mm.
We don't want to be associated with some of these kind of charlatans, right? So, part of the Bottled and Bond Act, it has to go in at 100 proof. It has to be one distiller produced in one location in one season. So,
Mm.
like your 6 month. And it has to be aged like 4 years. So and it has to be stored in a federally something warehouse, like your warehouse. You've got to where it's being, where it's sitting and kind of aging. The government's like, nope, this is what, and you have to label it as bottled and bond. So there's a lot more of that kind of legalese to it,
Mhm.
and just making sure that people are protected
Yeah.
because
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
actually the first like government mandate
Mm.
put on alcohol, and I don't know, maybe one of the last government mandates that everybody can agree on. Yeah,
Like, yes, thank you. I don't want cigarette tar in my whiskey.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's not great. Nobody wants, you to empty your septic tank into my like Barkley.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think we can all agree bottle and bond is a great thing. And if you see bottle and bond, like I've had really exceptional bottle and bond. I know the Chattanooga whiskey out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Their bottle and bond bourbon is one of the best bottle and bonds I've ever had. It's really, really good. Or at least it was when I had it. Obviously, bottle and bonds are ongoing and they're made in different seasons and all that stuff. So I can't swear that the one you find on the shelf right now is going to be as good as the one I had back in the day, but the one I had back in the day was pretty darn good.
Mhm.
All right, let's see. We talk about small batch and single barrel. So I know we talked about 4 years in the bottle and bond straight whiskey. What makes something just a straight whiskey?
You're drinking punt that to you, Justin.
I actually don't know, but I guess it would relate to the mash bill some, right?
It really just means that it's aged at least 2 years.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Okay.
No additives, aged at least 2 years, minimum of 2 years. And if you're blending anything, whether it's a small batch or whatever, if you're blending whiskeys, you have to take, I think Patrick mentioned this to us at Abstraction, you have to label the bottle with the lowest
Yeah.
aged. So you can have an 8-year and a 4-year and a 2-year. And if you blend them together and bottle it, it's a 2-year,
Mhm.
which is kind of sad. Like you probably picked the, like 4.5 year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the middle of the road.
What's the
But,
average?
yeah, what's the average? We want the batting average for this whiskey because it's gonna taste way better than a normal 2-year, right? Obviously, but um, we talked about mash bills.
I do feel like in last week's episode, I was talking with somebody and they said that some of their barrels, they don't last for 2 years. I mean, they make stuff, some of their stuff they make quickly and it's like a months-long process. So like 6-8 months and they've got a bottle. Now, I don't know if that makes a difference on what they call it. And I don't remember exactly what it was that he was describing that they are using that for. But I do remember him saying, "Wait, yeah, we're doing this quickly because we have." It may have been one of the contractor distillers where they're making it for somebody else.
Yeah.
Um,
Or
it was weird that he said that. I was like, huh,
Or are
okay.
they finishing it like they've got someone who, like an MGP, who makes juice for lots and lots of folks, and like, we're gonna give it to you, and you're gonna finish it in this honey cask
Yeah.
for a month and a half to add some finish to it, and then
Yeah, could have been.
toss
Yeah.
it that way.
And you're throwing out a whole lot of terms. Let's talk. No, it's good. You need to talk about them all. But let's, I guess before we move on, because we just mentioned it, age statement is just kind of an industry term, and it just means, it shows the youngest whiskey that's in the bottle. So, we talked about it, we just didn't label it. So let's label that and move on. We did talk about Angel's Share. All right. So what you mentioned is sourcing. Sourcing is exactly what it sounds like. You're getting it from somewhere else,
Mhm.
and you're doing whatever you want with it. There's a lot of them around here that source from Green River.
Mhm.
A lot more than I even thought, and that's pretty crazy. But I mean, and no shame, Green River makes a great product, and then
And a great shirt.
and a great shirt, yeah, and great coaster. We're using their coasters right now too. Green River, we've been huge fans of Green River since we opened here at the tavern. It's our well bourbon. It's all the things. So Green River's great, and it just goes to show why so many people are using it. So I know Jackson Purchase, who was a big sponsor of the festival. Um, they are making their own stuff. Craig Beam, 7th generation master distiller.
Mhm.
His second great uncle was Jim
Mhm.
of the Jim Beam line that you, I'm sure, have known. But yeah, I mean, he makes his own stuff, but he's also making stuff for other distilleries as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And that's cool because not everybody knows how to distill
Mhm.
or to distill at such a good quality. Or, in the case of like Old Terrell, who was here, like Old Terrell's got a great recipe, and it's a historic recipe. Nelson's Greenbrier.
Mhm.
We were talking about them earlier off camera. Same kind of thing with their history, right? That's a really cool story actually. Nelson's Greenbrier out of Nashville, but Greenbrier, Tennessee is just north of Nashville, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And these brothers were driving through the town on their way somewhere else, and they happened to see this sign, one of those historic markers on the side of the road, that said something about Nelson's Distillery, and they're like, "Wait, our name's Nelson."
Right.
And so they stopped and they read the sign, like, "Wait a second," and they found like the librarian and the historical records of the town, and they traced the lineage of the guy and found out he was a distant relative of theirs.
Mhm.
And in some random newspaper article, they found where he had published the original recipe for his mash bill. And so they then went and um, got all the licensing, all the requirements, all that. And one guy actually, they were, I think, our college students at the time. One of the brothers went and got a business degree, and the other one dropped out of school and went and got a job at like a Kentucky distillery and learned to make bourbon.
Mhm.
And so they took that family recipe and they made it, but then you got to throw it in a barrel for 4 years.
Right.
Mhm.
So what are you going to do? I mean, you're putting all this money into it. So it's like, oh, let's buy stuff from somewhere else,
Mhm.
put our name on it, and then we can start making money while we're waiting on our product to
Mhm.
come of age. It's way better to do that than to do what they call white lightning or white dog, or
Mhm.
where it's just basically moonshine. It's unaged whiskey or bourbon.
Yeah.
Very few people like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have the option to take that whiskey and distill it up enough until it becomes vodka
Mhm.
and sell vodka. But people that drink whiskey don't want vodka,
Right.
Yeah.
right? I mean, you could do that as an option, but if you're a bourbon distiller or whiskey distiller, you want to sell whiskey.
Mhm.
So sourcing it from somewhere else while you're waiting on your stuff to come of age, there's no shame in that,
Mhm.
right? And a lot of other people, they'll do gimmicky things, and this is a good way to segue into our next one, our next word. Our next word is finished. Finished bourbons, finished whiskeys. Technically, you cannot finish a bourbon and still call it a bourbon.
Mhm.
Angel's Envy was the one that kind of changed that, and they'll tell you when you go to their distillery and you take their tour, they'll be like, because they take their bourbon, they make bourbon, but then they put it in port wine barrels.
Mhm.
And so in order for them to call it bourbon, they actually went to court and fought it, and they're like, all right, fine, you can call it bourbon, but you have to say it's finished in whatever it's finished.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a gimmick, and it does seem to be, and this is less of a gimmick than aging it in a coal mine. But it's kind of the thing that people are doing now.
Right.
Mhm.
Toasted barrels are becoming a thing.
Yeah.
And you see that all over. Coalpick has a toasted barrel. It's really good. HK Young does toasted barrels. So I mean, toasted barrels are all the rage. Finishing is all the rage. You mentioned honey, honey casks, stuff like that. They're aging. Green River's about to launch, I think in May. They're doing a honey finish. So finishing is cool because it adds that extra element to it. It does give you a different profile taste. So yes, Angel's Envy, they did that too. Uh, woo, because that's their gimmick. I mean, and that sets them apart. Not everybody's gonna like it. When you finish bourbon in wine barrels, it gives it a fruitiness that not everybody's gonna like, but the people that do like it really like it.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's found its audience. But yeah, you get a lot of people that will source something, and whether it's from Green River, whether it's MGP is out of Indiana. They're a major distributor, and they sell to a lot more places than you think. So, um, I don't knowingly have any bourbons in my inventory here at the tavern that are MGP. I have a few bottles that come from non-Kentucky distilleries, and I researched them enough to know that they make their stuff on property. High West is out of Park City, Utah. I've been to their distillery. I watched them make it. Chattanooga, I watched them make it. But there's some really great distilleries I do love that do source from MGP. One of those is Las Vegas. Oh, what is it? They've got the guns. I don't remember. They have really cool bottles though, but we'll put it in the notes because I
Google that one.
drank too much. Oh, they're great. They're a really cool distillery and they have great merch and all the things, but they do. I was gonna carry them here and then I found out they were MGP and I was a little crestfallen. Not that MGP doesn't make great product, just that I want to support people that are pioneering their own stuff, But like I said, if you're waiting on something with Nelson, they actually did something unique. Not only did they source, but they actually, the whole Belle Meade line of bourbon, they actually found.
It's like, were they the ones that found like some in one of the neighborhood like historical museums, and they're like, oh, we've got this jug where you can like somehow creepily still get the yeast strain DNA, blah blah blah, and reverse engineer it, which seems super weird, but
Maybe. I think what it was the Belle Meade Distillery was a thing, and they bought them and brought that brand under their umbrella. But I mean, what you're kind of talking about is something. I mean, I'm gonna go back to Jack Daniels, but like sour mash, right? Sour mash is when you're making your mash bill and you're making that kind of culmination, Patrick, at abstraction, talking about sour mash, where you're not making a brand new mash bill every time. You're reserving some of what was there, some of that yeast strain, and you're using that to create, like kind of like a kidney transplant, I guess, if you will. You take a little piece of it, you put it over here, and then you add to it, and it grows the same kind of thing. It's a more consistent flavor profile. Jack Daniels is famous for their sour mash, but anyway, I digress. But yeah, so.
well, I was just thinking, I'm like, so then is sweet mash then on your list of things to talk about? Because
I mean, sweet
sour
would
mash,
be the opposite.
it's right, it's the opposite. You're not taking from what you did yesterday. You are that
You're
still is
starting
clean,
over
and you are
every time.
starting over.
Yep.
Yep, your
Mm.
recipes
New
and then
bacteria, new
all of
yeast.
the
Interesting.
thing. Oh,
Okay, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
rather than building from what you had with your sour mash.
Yeah.
Probably why so many distillers do the sour mash, because I am not recreating the wheel every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's consistency, and I don't. It'd be interesting. That'd be a good question to ask a distiller, maybe in season 2. Why sweet versus sour?
Yeah.
Why would anybody choose sweet over sour?
Yeah.
And sour just seems easier. It seems more consistent. Yeah, I don't know. That's a sciencey chemistry thing that I can't answer.
I'm not
That's all
sure.
right.
I know. I feel like we've gone to a couple distilleries that do the sweet mash, but I'm like, they don't stand out as something that was like, oh yeah, we went to blah blah blah, and they were sweet mash. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I probably don't remember because I didn't like it as much as the consistency you get from a sour mash. That's just me.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. Um, let's see. Was there anything else we needed to talk about in sourcing or finishing?
I don't think so.
Okay. I just have a couple more terms on the list here, and that is chill filtered versus non-chill filtered. I don't know how that process is done.
Yeah, that one I see a lot lately of blah blah blah, it's chill filtered. Neat. I don't know what that means.
Yes. I think most bourbon is going to be chill filtered. I think so. Just based on the definition here. because chill filtered is filtered for clarity. It may reduce flavor. The non-chill filtered is a fuller texture. It may appear cloudy. MB Roland is non-chill filtered. So they're here locally. And as much as I love what they do, a lot of their stuff, at least in the past, a lot of their stuff being, I guess, non-chill filtered, coming from the same mash bill, kind of all just has the same aftertaste. So I don't love that. They do make some really good stuff, and I mean, their Barker's Mill is really good, and they've got some different stuff they've done. They've got like a dark fire, which is almost scotchy because it's very smoky.
I was able to taste some of that.
Yeah.
She had some in her personal stash underneath the table,
Oh,
and her husband was there, and he said something about it, and she's like, "Oh, I forgot about that," and grabbed it, and from the moment she started pouring, I could smell the smoke.
yeah,
I was like, "That's crazy," because it smoked the whole way through.
yeah.
And
It's
not just
wildly cool.
yeah, it's not just smoked up top; it's
Yeah.
smoked all the way.
And that, I would say, that's less gimmick and more by design, because what they do is, I think we may have even mentioned this at some point in one of the earlier episodes, but with their in here in this part of Western Kentucky, they dark fire tobacco. There's a lot of tobacco farms, so they dark fire and cure the tobacco. And so what MB Roland did was they took the corn that went into the mash bill before it goes into the mash bill, and they dark fire the corn with the same process they do the tobacco. And so it imparts that smokiness, and it makes it really cool. And then they add it into the mash bill, and so that smokiness is just inherent inside of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something that's added later, anything like that. That's done on the front end. So technically it's still a bourbon because no flavors were
Sure.
added to it after the fact. So it's really cool and it's really unique. So yeah. But yeah, all their stuff is non-chill filtered. But their bottle and bond, they had a bottle and bond here. It was excellent.
Yeah.
So it's their second one. They're about to launch the third version of it. Yeah, and they're speaking very highly of their third version. So
Yeah.
Embry Rolling's cool, and they got a great facility. The rick houses are beautiful. So definitely go out there. They're doing some really cool stuff. And somebody even told me recently they have a tequila that they do, except you can't call it tequila because it's not made in Mexico. They
That's
call
their
it
agave.
yeah, their agave spirit.
Yeah.
Which is tequila and everything but name. And somebody came in the bar and they're like, "Man, Embry Rolling, we love their tequila." I was like, I actually have a bottle in the other room. So it's kind of fun. But yeah, MB Rolling's cool. Maybe we can get out there for season 2.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be neat. So
Play some disc golf.
yeah, play some disc golf. We'll get up to Green River and play the shoot the shoe.
Shoot the shoe.
So yeah, I learned that yesterday too, which was great because their bottles are horseshoes and there's a little gap at the bottom of the bottle where the horseshoe doesn't come together, and it's designed to be a game. They have these little coins and you flick them across the table like air hockey, and you try and get into the groove under the bottle. Learn something new every day.
Yep. And if you don't have the token, you can use a quarter, and then you get the quarter in, it just sits on the top. And then you just stack all your quarters, and then when you decide you're done, whoever wins gets all the quarters and does their laundry.
I love it. There you go. Or like go to the arcade if those still exist. So, or if you're at the distillery, play the Zoltar machine.
Right.
Get your
You're on portrait.
Yeah.
Shoot is fantastic.
That's right.
In the Louisville tasting room, they have the most amazing fortune teller.
Oh, so you haven't been to the Owensboro one?
I know.
Oh, okay. Maybe we need a field trip up there. So yeah, I've recently met our Green River rep, and he's fantastic. And of course, the rep that was here for the festival, she was fantastic. Her and her husband, they were great. And so yeah, super excited to see what we'll partner with Green River and do some cool stuff with them in the future.
Yeah.
So they'll be out here in June. Maybe we can record a special episode.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with that. So we'll add it into season 2.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have anything else that we need to talk about whiskey or bourbon or anything of that nature?
I think maybe now would be a good time for you to explain what you're doing with the art and the dome and everything.
Sure. Because I love bourbon. And I love facilitating art. Like I remember many, many years ago, I had gone to one of those paint and sips at a restaurant, right? You get your dinner, you get your glass of wine, and someone's at the front yapping away about branches. And I was like, what step are we on? What are we doing? What's happening here? It was very, very frustrating. So I was glad that the wine was good and the pasta was delicious because I didn't know what was happening. Um, but then I was, like, I want to try this. So um, there are 1,000 templates online and YouTube videos. So watched a couple and found a couple of really great companies like Gallery on the Go and Social Artworking, where they're like, well, we have templates. We've got things created by people who are artistic.
Mhm.
And then we've got instructions. So
Mhm.
as a project manager, I can take someone's instructions and their artwork and they're like, oh, you do these 5 steps and you've got this painting, and I can read it and be like, those steps are horrible.
Mhm.
Let's do this first and let's move this on up and just kind of do a little bit of tweaking. So um really loved that. And then we moved to Kentucky and then there was COVID. And so you kind of just shelf all of
Yeah.
that, right? So we were actually here for New Year's Day brunch 2 years ago, and I was sitting at the bar, talking with one of the other folks, and I was like, "So if I got like a trailer where folks could climb in and sit and paint for a bit, um, or something like that." So we kind of started talking through that, and um, I thought I had been done with all of the paint stuff. Like my aunt came down for my birthday, and I gave her a lot of my schmutz, and then New Year's Eve talking with this daughter, and I was like, I think I'm maybe not done. So kind of just started Googling here and there. And I was like, okay, I am not equipped to outfit a trailer or,
Mhm.
rehab a FedEx truck. There's only so much,
Mhm.
disposable income a person's got sometimes. So
Right.
I was like, let's start Googling. And then kind of the tent idea came through.
Mhm.
So um for those of you who were at the Bourbon Festival and saw the giant white dome, that's my mobile art lounge that needs a name. She needs
Mhm.
a name so I can say, oh, I'm throwing her in the truck kind of thing. Um, but I love the idea of being able to pull up to a spot, plug on in, inflate, and let folks sit, try and do some bourbon or beer festival
Mhm.
specific kind of artsy things to sit and paint. Because sometimes while your bourbon digests,
Mhm.
you just need some time to sit for a bit.
That's right.
And so that creative outlet,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
kind of enjoy.
Sit
So
in the
that's it.
shade,
Right.
sober up a little bit,
Mhm.
Exactly.
paint something.
Right. You just
Yeah.
gotta the zen of coloring. Did your
Mhm.
magnet make your fridge?
Not yet. Still in the truck. It was last night when I got home. It was flipped upside down, so it was the black part against black cushion. I was like, I did not see it at all when I picked up the other 30 things that were in the seat, and I had to take upstairs. So then this morning I got back in the truck. I was like, oh, hey, flipped it over so I could see blue, so I would know to get it when I get back home.
See, there you go. Yeah. So hopefully, art aged and neat will be rolling into distilleries around the neighborhood, hopefully. So
Yeah.
Cool.
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I was very excited to
So
be able to do our initial inflate here. So that was
that was
fantastic.
super fun. Yeah, it's not really a tent; it's an igloo,
Yeah.
and it definitely stands out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe at one point you'll paint the igloo. So,
And think, back to your episode with AI, it was like ChatGPT, here's this dome igloo, and they have customized options. Make me an image of what this will look like. Barrel shaped, bourbon barrel shaped, and it's got the brown and the brown bands. And I'm like, yes. So of course I send that to the company that I'm working with. They're like, oh, yeah, I can absolutely do that for a gazillion dollars more. I was like, white's perfect.
yeah,
White's good.
White's good. White's fantastic.
Mhm.
Well, let's stick with the white. So
That's cool.
It's funny. It's just cool because it's in England.
I
Oh
was like,
yeah,
it was fun. So, you learn a couple things. Like I'm glad I had bought little fans. We definitely need more fans. And
that's
It
fun.
was fairly comfortable in there yesterday.
yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So what about your bourbon group that you're a part of?
I am part of Bourbon Women.
Mhm.
So Peggy No, who's part of the Jim Beam family,
Booker no.
Booker No, and she started this organization. I think this year is 15. So that's what they've been talking. And I am still new to the organization, so I apologize, ladies. But just they offer different events and learning. And I know the Mad Men series made bourbon and whiskey very, I'm a man, I drink my whiskey, but a lot of women also really like their bourbon.
Mhm.
Thank you, the blonde from Yellowstone.
Beth.
Beth.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that finding your balance, not all of us are Beth
Mhm.
and not of all, but just kind of a good place.
All of
to-
us are chauvinist men.
right.
Yeah.
But we like to be able to sit and learn about different items. Like they had an event in Louisville that we went to with Four Roses and bluegrass bitters and learning how bitters change
Mm.
things and a little spritz of this or the walnut and that kind of thing. So, really learning as much as you can is
Yeah.
always fun throughout your day. I'm not just going to sit at home drinking water and coffee all day long. I want a little bit of something and your palate changes.
Mhm.
I remember like you were said earlier about you find a bottle that you were like for the many years I was all about Bullet because
Mm.
it really was my first and what I knew.
Mhm.
And then it was like, there's more. Oh wait, there's more. And I had found Whiskey University. You get 5 free online classes, and it was like, what? There are ryes? There are weeded? What's happening here? And I went from having like one bottle of Jack Daniel's Winter Jack, which
Mhm.
is fabulous with like some cider in the
Mhm.
wintertime. It's more of a liqueur.
Mhm.
To now we have a whole table full of ryes and bourbons, and it's like, oh, who'd have thought? So it's just always evolving and learning a bit, and then
Mhm.
your taste change. It's like, oh, I've had some really great toasted and some of the weeded stuff, and I somehow have a ginormous Penelope collection. It's like, how did that happen? I have no idea, but you find something and you just keep going,
That's true.
which is awesome with you guys is being able to come here and have a cocktail and have this, takes that,
Mhm.
and just talk more about it. So it's like, yeah,
Perfect.
Awesome.
yeah.
Okay. Well, it's weird because now we're at the end of season 1.
Yeah.
Oh.
Great job, guys.
So,
I learned
thank
a
you.
lot.
18 episodes.
There you go. I know I'm
So-
behind, but Joseph and I have talked about things that I've learned. I'm like, oh, I don't do that anymore. I
Yeah.
really wish my phone would learn some of my behavior with the maps. I don't want the 3-hour other option. Or like
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
day where I was going to Paducah and it's like, well, if you ride your bike, it'll take you 3 hours. Like, in what universe am I riding my bike to
Mhm.
Paducah? I don't own a bike.
Yeah. Right? That's funny. So. All right. Well, I guess then there's nothing left to say but goodbye. So we're
Bye
at
for
our
now.
goodbye for now. We're gonna take a little bit, and we will be back with season 2.
We'll probably still put out not full length episodes unless we have a special or something for whatever reason something comes up. But we'll probably do some shorts, some cocktail mixes throughout the summer. Just little snippets of videos and
some
stuff.
B-roll at all the events that happen, and
Yeah.
throw that out there.
Yeah.
So
But otherwise, we'll be back sometime in the fall. More details incoming on that as fall gets closer.
follow us on Facebook at Tipsy Tech Talk.
Yep. YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts. Now we have an Instagram.
That's the Instagram. I
Yep.
forgot.
Boom.
So
Absolutely. Well, and thank you for letting me join in. It was
yes,
awesome.
thank you for coming. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll have you back again. So I think we teased a Scotch episode at some point. We'll have to brush up on our Scotch, and
Yeah.
we'll all learn it together.
Any of you all own a kilt?
No,
I was
we'll
asking.
find some. It's still on Amazon, so it'll be fine. We'll all come in here in kilts and we'll play golf, and it'll be fine. Bagpipe, that's Irish. We'll do a Scottish-Irish episode.
There we go.
So, and I think we're also planning, I told them, I was like, we need a Japanese cocktail episode as well. And we'll talk about Japanese whiskeys and sake and different stuff like that. So we're going to go a little bit more international in season 2. So just to throw a hint out there at you. So
Good.
All right. There we go. We'll see you guys after the summer.